All right, our meeting is being recorded by cloud. Before I call to order, if everybody would join with me in a moment of silence at the passing of Frank Schaefer, former town manager. Thank you. Call to order the town council meeting for the town of New Windsor for February 3rd, 2021. If everyone would rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's tough sometimes when you're off a little bit with everybody else. I won't say what mayor in Carroll County, but forgot the Pledge of Allegiance about halfway through. That's one of my fears. But our meetings are recorded electronically through the cloud. We go by an agenda. Anyone wishing to have something placed on the agenda for the town to discuss, the town council to discuss, should have had it to the town office the previous Wednesday by 3 o'clock. There are 4 council members present. Councilman Terry Green is absent for this meeting. Approval of minutes from the January 6th, 2021 town council meeting. Donna has emailed them out to everybody.
I make a motion that we accept those.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Hoffman to approve the minutes from the January 6th, 2021 town council meeting. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, signify by raise your hand. Noted all 4 council members have raised their hands. Minutes have been approved. Mayor's report. First, I just would like to go on record, and I think I speak for everyone, about the tragic loss of our former town manager, Frank Schaefer. When Frank came, our reserve in the enterprise fund was next to nothing. One major project break of a water or sewer line could have wiped us out. With under his guidance and his leadership, the council adopted the water and sewer rates to now where we are in a lot better financial shape, the best shape we've ever been in. So I know we've taken, or the council and myself have taken heat sometimes for our water and sewer rates, but as you'll go along in this report, this meeting, town manager Gary Dye will be talking about some projects that we're very thankful that we have the funding for, and we don't have to go out for loans at this time for some projects, but that'll be discussed later. But I just want everybody to know that Frank had a tremendous impact on this town that will last for generations. And I know meeting with him on a basically bi-weekly was instrumental in me, and a lot of times making decisions and getting his input that I now get Gary's input on. So having a town manager there has been very helpful. And I know Frank, like I say, made a lot of changes in town hall, how we operated. I think we became a government, a more professional office. Not that it wasn't before, but he just brought in a different aspect of the county government that he had 31 years of experience. So Frank, we miss you, but we're not going to forget you. All right, my report, I will share here. Second. Got so many reports here. Everything but my report. How about that? There we are. All right. submitted agenda items for the Maryland Mayors Association meeting, which is going to be this Friday, virtual, about our free newspapers issue that we've had. And actually, I ran over one snow blowing this past week, so it's still an issue. And if anybody's doing anything different with their election processes, I know probably more awareness of absentee ballots will be part of Donna's future here. I'm sure letting everybody know more about that as we get closer to the election. I've been meeting with folks on the state level. I checked with Steve Lorenz, who used to own this building, about the roof warranty. Since we had the last snow or ice storm we had, there was a little leakage. And I just checked to see whether or not he had replaced it and maybe still had a warranty on it. But he said, no, he did not, that the fire department had before that. So with that being at least 2005, I imagine there's probably not a warranty anymore on that roof. But Chesapeake Bay Trust Green Streets, Green Jobs, Green Towns Grant Program would we would be eligible to replace the roof with a green roof, but I'm not real sure if that's feasible because they want community access to it to see, the benefits of it, and there's really no access to it. But it was something that maybe could save us some money from repairing the roof, because if we put a new roof on, with eaves and everything, we could be looking at $100,000 for a new roof. So that's why I went out and tried to look for a grant. And I had a Zoom meeting with the University of Maryland Partnership for Action, Learning, and Sustainability, PALS program. If you remember, they did the outstanding project for our park, Sulphur Springs Park. They are very interested in doing a capital project analysis for the town retreat that I've also had, still have Towson University Applied Mathematics Laboratory working on. They are almost completed. And when PALS program reached out to me about doing a project, at the time, about a year ago, they weren't able to do it. But now, in the meantime, they're more than willing to do it. And I told them up front, I said, I already have Towson University, and I checked with Towson University, see whether or not they would be willing to work with University of Maryland, and both universities are willing to work together. So I think we're going to see some really nice things come out, and I think it'll be beneficial for Donna and Gary going forward to be able to plug numbers in to take a look at capital projects in the future. I had a Google Meet with Elizabeth Hughes, who's the Director and State Preservation Officer of Maryland Historical Trust, and staff about a potential archaeological dig at Dealman Inn. Mainly I think Wayne measured, it's about 73 feet by 115 feet, that open lot area. If that were to become a parking lot, naturally you would never be able to have a dig. So I'd like to see a dig in there in the next year or two. And they're very interested in doing that. And I've also, through Kim, Councilwoman Schultz, reached out to Lisa McCurack, who had done a few digs there, and whether or not they would be able to bring students in to help with the project. Might be a couple glitches there, but since this is our project, I think we can call a final shot of letting 8th grade students come in, or other members of the community. I had a request for an updated water and sewer chronology for fiscal year 21. I think, Kalina, maybe you've posted that on the Facebook page, but I emailed it out to the individual. And then July 1st, I'll probably try to update it for fiscal year 22, but it shows all of our expenses and our projects. And requested receive information on moving fiber next door from the old town hall to the new town hall. CMC's working on that with me. There's some advantages to that, especially if we want to stream our meetings in the future. And there's a few other things that are probably a little more techy than I'm able to talk about. And then also requested no parking signs on Main Street and High Street during snow emergency plan. I contacted Sam DeLawrence at State Highway Administration, and they're going to come in, and there'll be like one sign coming into town and one sign from both ways, one down by the railroad tracks on 31, and then one up by Blue Ridge Avenue to say no parking during emergency snow plan, so that there's not 100 signs all over the place, but it has to be signs up there for Deputy Calusi to write tickets. So they'll be up hopefully in the next week or so. And that is my report. Anybody have any questions? All right. And also I want to, I don't know if she's on here yet or not. Don't see her on here, but I wanted to introduce Megan Ann Woodward. She said she was going to be on here, but I don't see her. She's with the Carroll County Times, and she had reached out to see whether or not there was anything we wanted to report on. It just so happened to be a couple of days after Frank had passed away, and she did, I thought, an outstanding job doing a feature article on Frank. Committee reports, Public Works, Councilman Hoffman. I didn't want to take your thunder away because I know you're going to talk about the great job the guys did this past 3 days. So go ahead. I'm not going to take your thunder.
All right. I certainly am. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So the Public Works crew was taking advantage of some indoor work and was organizing a lot of our buildings and all the tools and things in those buildings. However, what I'm going to talk about is the snowstorm that we just went through. So first off, our new staff member, Ed Barnett, is on board and is adjusting well, has been learning very quickly and has done some snow plowing for us as well. And I understand he's been doing very well with the snow plowing. One thing of note, our new pickup truck, maybe you saw it around town, was in use. Our Public Works crew loves the new V-blades that we have on there, said they're a real time saver, and they certainly enjoy using that. So unfortunately, we ran low on some salt with the way the storm came and the way the precipitation was going from snow to rain. They used a lot of salt. They used over 30 tons of salt. So we can only store in our current salt barn about 40 tons of salt. So they were really running low. So down the road, when we're talking about new Public Works facility and a new salt barn, we'll certainly be talking about extending the size of that barn, especially as we bring, Snyder Summit on board. So we'll have more that we'll be taking care of. But on a positive note, Wayne did order some salt. I didn't hear, it may have been delivered today or tomorrow. So we will be in good shape for any pending storms that come up in the future. So, this was a long storm. It lasted over a couple of days, and our Public Works crew was out during the duration, doing lots of plowing, keeping the roads and our alleys and streets clear. I thought they did a super job. I did get a chance to talk with Alban while he was out plowing, and said that most people were pretty cooperative and most of the vehicles were out of the way, so they were doing their job pretty much uninterrupted. So we appreciate the citizens, taking heed to our ask of getting the cars off the route. To the Public Works crew, they did a great job. And certainly appreciate all the time they spent walks and driving. So thank you. One last thing, the Planning Commission did not meet in January.
All right. Any questions for Councilman Hoffman? And I think everybody says we'll agree that the guys did an outstanding job. And I think you'll hear more about Ed's ability to plow snow in town manager's report. Water and Sewer, Councilman Paulsgrove.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have anything in particular to share in regards to water sewer, and that is really a good thing. because oftentimes when I do share, it's about a leak or a breakdown or something like that. But I've not heard anything from Public Works Director Wayne Myers recently. I am a little bit unsure of the reporting of the second leak on the elevated pedestal tank. Did we talk about that at the last meeting? I'm seeing one head nodding yes. Okay. Anyway, the point is that it started leaking a little bit higher than the old one, and Wayne was able to drop the level down, and that'll be taken care of in the spring. Other than that, I don't have anything on water and sewer. I would like to echo our appreciation to Public Works Department for the excellent work that they do. I did stop in and take a look at that truck, and Manager Dye said it's both a beauty and a beast, and it was. It's not quite as beautiful anymore because it got a little bit dirty in the recent snow plowing work, but that means it's doing its job along with the crew. So our appreciation to Public Works Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Paulsgrove? Public Safety, Councilman Smith.
Good evening, everyone. I don't really have much. I want to thank the citizens for the cooperation during the storm. For the most part, I think there were a few minor glitches, but for the most part, everybody seems to understand what we need to do and why we need to do it. So I thank everybody on that. I will echo the sentiments of everybody on the wonderful job that our Public Works Department did on removing the snow. But with that being said, we now have the melting process. So keep your eyes out for when it refreezes. You're going to start seeing some black ice. You're going to start seeing places that are slippery. And I can attest to that because I fell down my driveway today. So I can tell you that it happens. You know, if you have a blockage or something in front of the fire hydrants, the snow piled up, please clear those out because the life that the fire department may save may be your own. So help those guys out a little bit. Be careful when you are shoveling. A lot of problems happen health related wise. The obvious things of back pulls and muscle pulls and bone breaks and stuff like that. But you have a lot of heart attacks and stuff like that happen when people are shoveling. So be very careful. If you have people in your neighborhood that could use a hand, please give them a hand in doing that. Be careful driving. There are areas, although this county, I think, is head and shoulders above everybody when it comes to snow removal. There are areas in this county where the wind blows it back across the road or you're going to get some black ice or whatever. So be very careful when you're driving. I know that the Sheriff's Department handled a bunch of accidents during this time, state police as well. There were some very serious accidents. And most of them come from driver's error. I hate to say it, but that's 90% of the accidents come from some sort of error. And usually it involves speed or speed for conditions. So keep that in mind as well. And then, of course, my usual thing that I say now that it's cold weather and snow, people like to light up those fireplaces. Make sure your fireplace is safe, your chimneys are clean, and that you're doing all the proper things. Have them checked. Check the batteries in your carbon monoxide detectors and your smoke detectors. It's vitally important. We had friends of ours who had their carbon monoxide levels went up very high in their house recently, and the fire department came and had to evacuate them out of their house. So it does happen. So make sure your batteries are working. Most of them should be hardwired now anyhow without batteries, but check and make sure that they're working correctly. Other than that, I hope everybody has a very safe a month, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Any questions for Councilman Smith? Economic Development, Councilwoman Schultz.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to thank you, Mayor Roop, for the nice words about Town Manager Schaefer. You know, those of us who work with Frank know how much his work did to benefit the town. It's not the kind of thing that anybody that was outside could appreciate. So you just have to take the mayor's word for it. He put us in such good shape financially. I was just talking about him that the weekend before he passed away, and I said that I sent a note to his wife and said that I often think about how lucky we are that he straightened us all out. So So sad. Just a couple of things. I had posted on Facebook that they did another round of the Carroll County restaurant relief money, and the deadline to apply for that was this week, but I know of at least one restaurant that did, and another one contacted me and asked me some questions. So hopefully that's helping some of our local businesses out. And the governor also last week did on a state level, I don't know exactly if the county is with his guidelines, because I know there's controversy in some other counties, but the restaurants are allowed to stay open as late as 10, I believe now, if they want to. So that if our local restaurants are open that late, please patronize them. I know they all need our business. Just a reminder that there is, I sit on the board for the Human Services Programs representing New Windsor, and there is help through them available for folks if anybody's having trouble related to COVID or otherwise paying their utilities, which includes our water bill and or rent or eviction or anything like that. HSB is there to help. You can look them up online, or I know that the town office has contact information as well. And just a reminder, that we have a Facebook page now, which means it's a little harder to post things, but I have seen a couple of folks posting stuff, and Colleen has been doing a great job. She's actually doing most of the work now, which is great. But if you have events that you want or need to have posted or publicized or any other information that's for the good of the town, please send that to Kalina or just the general info box, or you can message the mayor or myself on Facebook. And that's a good place to get an idea about the snow emergency, because I saw a few folks saying, I didn't know. That's where as soon as the state police let us know, we post it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilwoman Schultz? Any deputy? Share your report here in a second.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office, between the dates of January 1, 2021 to January 31st, 2021, responded to 59 calls for service within the town limits. Out of those 59 calls, only 4 required reports, which were the following. On January 3rd, 2021, at approximately 9:38 p.m., deputies responded to the 400 block of High Street in reference to a domestic assault. Investigation revealed that known parties had gotten into a verbal argument which turned physical. Injuries were observed on the victim, at which time the suspect was arrested and transported to the Carroll County Detention Center without incident. Case was closed by arrest. On January 8th at approximately 9:23 a.m., a deputy observed an abandoned unregistered motor vehicle in the 1100 block of Green Valley Road. The vehicle was towed from the location and impounded. Case remains open. On January 20th at approximately 7:49 a.m., deputies responded to the 100 block of Main Street in reference to a missing person. Investigation revealed that a juvenile at the location ran away from home at approximately 12:17 a.m. that morning in an unknown direction. A search of the area was conducted, which yielded negative results. The subject was later located in Westminster, at which time it was learned that the juvenile wanted to go south for warmer weather. The juvenile was returned home to their parents, and case was closed. On January 30th at approximately 9:36 p.m., a deputy was on routine patrol in the area of Maryland 31 and Wakefield Valley Road. At that time, they observed a vehicle passing another vehicle at a high rate of speed. The deputy activated their emergency equipment and attempted to stop the vehicle. The driver continued down 31 and failed to stop. The vehicle then pulled over onto Church Street, where the deputy was able to contact the driver. The driver was charged with fleeing and eluding, along with several other traffic violations. Case was closed by arrest. All participants mentioned above are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Other notes, as discussed last month, the Carroll County government will soon be limiting parking by installing signs at the Carroll County Library headquarters property located at 1100 Green Valley Road. Residents who park their vehicles on said property will need to find alternative parking, as this will be strictly enforced. And please continue to lock your vehicles when parking around town, as thefts from motor vehicles are up throughout the county. Don't be a victim. Simply keep your valuables out of view and lock your doors. That is all I have.
Thank you. And just a side note, last month, I think we, Councilman Paulsgrove had mentioned that the fire department allowed us some parking down along Water Street on the carnival grounds. And I put cones out there I guess Sunday evening, Saturday, whenever it was. And thank you, Ed, for getting us permission to park there. I don't know if anybody parked there or not, but we have about 12, 15 parking spaces. So that should take the place of the community meeting room parking lot. All right, fire chief. I don't see anybody here from the rec council. Let me see if I can get the chief's report up here in a minute, Byron. Oh, there we are.
Good evening. For the month of January, 24 fire calls, 65 calls for EMS service. It's been fairly uneventful so far this year, thank goodness. We hope everyone survived our recent snow event. Just a reminder, keep fire hydrant dug out so that we can access it in an emergency. Also, several fires in the area remind us to properly dispose of ashes from your fireplace or stove. Make sure to treat them as if they're still on fire. Keep them away from anything combustible, and we'll prevent a lot of tragedy this way. There have been several fires in the area. People have stored their ashes in plastic buckets, paper bags, stored them on their back deck, next to their wood pile, right up beside their house. And ashes aren't dead till they're cold and dead. So make sure they're good and out before you do anything with them. Also, keep an eye on our website. We have some fundraisers coming up in the near future. We're working on some new ideas for this year. Just in case the pandemic continues and we have to go away from our traditional fundraisers, we're coming up with some new ideas. So keep an eye out on our website, and thank you all for this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Town Manager Dye's report. Let me bring it up here.
Good evening, everybody. While Neal's pulling that up, I'll echo some sentiments and thanks to Public Works that's already been said. But I know the guys spent a lot of hours beginning pretty much all day, early Sunday morning, all day Sunday, very early Monday, marathon days, and did a great job. I mean, these guys are coming in at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and working till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and for a couple days in a row. So kudos to them. They did a great job and got to use some of the new equipment and like that. In terms of Frank Schaefer's passing, Frank, I've known Frank for 25 or 30 years, going back to my days in private sector engineering and work at the county government, and will truly be missed. He was a mentor to me, both professionally and in running, and I ran races with him before in the past, so he'll definitely be missed. 201 Street Park. Just an update, the revised RFP was released Wednesday, December 9th. We submitted that revised RFP to MML and email marketplace, and emailed the RFP to 9 contractors from a list that Circuit Rider and myself put together. The pre-bid meeting was held January 8th. We had 2 contractors attend. The cutoff for questions was February 1st. We had several questions proposed by the contractors, and addendum 2 and revised RFP was emailed to both contractors on the 1st. Proposals are due this Friday at 10 a.m. We'll do a formal bid opening, and then plan to award the contract at the February 16th work session meeting, and notice proceed the next day, hopefully, and then work scheduled to be completed end of May 28th of this year. The Co-Drive pump station had been experiencing power issues for several weeks. Public Works Director Myers worked persistently with First Energy, and on Friday, January 29th, First Energy crews installed 3 new transformers, and we believe the power issue has been resolved. So that's good news there. Time will tell, but we believe it's been taken care of. The Public Works dump truck plow, the new V plow from Extreme Fabrication was picked up and installed on the dump truck last week, and as mentioned previously, was put to use with this last storm and worked great. The Public Works guys are really pleased with the new plow at both plows and trucks, but the V plow, they really like the V plows and how versatile they are. Also mentioned before was Public Works position. Ed Barnett started with Public Works on Monday this week, right in the middle of a snowstorm, and he got acquainted with town snow removal policy very quickly. Basically thrown into the fire, but he did a really good job and adapted real well. It was quick, real evident early that he was quite comfortable with the truck and the plow and things like that. So he's been, Wayne dubbed him the cul-de-sac king. So I think that's high praise from Director Myers. Ed's background's basically in operating, repairing and selling farm equipment and construction equipment. He lives close to town on a farm on Jasontown Road, and he's going to be a real good addition to town and Public Works. The mayor and council tablets, everyone has received their new laptops, and I haven't heard of any problems or issues. So I guess everybody's got them working okay, and hopefully using them this evening. The procurement policy update. Town Attorney Ostrander is working to finalize a draft policy. A draft of the revised and updated policy is anticipated for review at the February work session meeting. And then I wanted to talk about the Blue Ridge pump station upgrade, give you a budget update on that. And I put together a briefing paper with some numbers on that. So that upgrade to the station costs are higher than expected. To give you a little bit of history, an estimated budget number of $300,000 was used when the pump station upgrade was first put into the capital project list for the enterprise fund back in FY20. At that time, we only had an estimate from Envirep, who is the Gorman Rupp, the pump dealer. Envirep provides the fiberglass enclosures like you have at Blue Ridge, and also similar to Co. And they also provide the Gorman Rupp pumps and limited pump station components. The budget estimate provided by Envirep was $140,000 to $145,000 just for their basic package. Approximately $155,000 for engineering and other costs was added and rounded up to that $300,000 budget number. So the original plan was to do a basic as-is upgrade of the pump station. We're now planning for enlargement of the site and a more involved upgrade that includes estimated EDUs, and the estimated EDU account and the associated flows, and then safety improvements, which I'll touch on here a little bit. So the current numbers that we have from GMB are as follows. Their preliminary design was $23,500. You all approved that a couple months ago. That work is complete. At that point, I reached out to GMB and requested a final proposal, which I think the mayor's showing you there. I've shared that with the mayor and council. That proposal is for final design, bid phase services, and construction management services. And that's a total of $91,132, broken down as final design is $62,548. The bid services were $31,666, and construction management services are $25,418. So this would be the next step in the design process. So that's been submitted, but we'll talk about that in a little bit later as well. So GMB's total engineering between the preliminary and the final comes to $114,662. The preliminary estimate that GMB submitted as part of the preliminary design, they did two estimates, one for a 10 horsepower pumps and one for 15 horsepower pumps. The 10 horsepower pump estimate was $335,910. And for the 15 horsepower, it was $343,860. So that difference is $7,950. WBCM inspection estimate was, per me, the town manager, at $46,000. That's based on 4 months of inspection at the billable hours that WBCM charges for inspection for us. They're doing the inspection for the work at Snyder Summit as well. So going with the 15 horsepower pumps, which I recommend we do, the total estimated cost is $504,492. The preliminary design, as I mentioned earlier, the 23.5 is part of that total, and that work is already completed. So to elaborate on some of the reasons for the increase, like I said, we're expanding the footprint of the site. Currently, right now, the access is off of 31 there, just past the entrance to Snyder's. Very short driveway. There have been a couple accidents with MES who stops and inspects and takes numbers at the station. There's really no room to maneuver and turn around if we needed to get construction vehicles in there and trucks in there and things like that. So we are expanding that footprint to allow for better maneuverability and safety. And that work required a site survey and a site plan that was done as part of that preliminary design. But the additional site work in the estimates adds grading, stone base, paving, fence, sediment control, things like that, which are listed in GMB's breakdowns of their estimated cost. And that's about $33,000 there. And then we're also adding a generator for backup power that was not part of the original EnviroRep price. And the generator is going to allow for much more reliable backup power in the event of we lose electricity and power there than what we had there today. What's there today is basically a propane fueled pony motor. When the power goes out, it's not very reliable, and it only run one pump at a time. Unlike if the generator's there and in place and you lose power, it'll run both pumps in sequence, which is the way the pump station designs and operates normally. So the generator alone, the cost is $40,000 for that. And then there are some additional costs for electric and transfer switch related to that generator. So if you look at another thing too, that when you look at those numbers from GMB, those are total numbers. They work on both of those estimates. They work up a direct total cost for each different estimate, the 10 horse and the 15 horse. And then they add 5% for mobilization, 20% contingency, and 10% for profit. So at those items add up average between the two estimates about $88,000 of that money. Of the average direct cost is about $252. So that's the average of the 10 and the 15 horsepower estimates. So again, I mentioned my recommendation is the 15 horsepower for that little bit of difference. The main reason for that is when everything's ultimately built out, it'll be very easy to adjust those pumps and the shims with a bigger horsepower to allow more flow through the same station if we need it. So the other thing to point out is GMB's estimate for that for the construction of the higher number, the 343,860. That's approximately $200,000 more than that EnviroRep original estimate, and that accounts for most of the increase above what was originally budgeted. So. So tonight, really, I really want the action to be for the mayor and council to consider and think about how to pay for the Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade. It has to be done. It's 27 years old. It was built in 93, I believe. no, 97, I believe. So it needs to be done. So we just really need to figure out and decide how we want to pay for that. And the options, Neal alluded to this earlier, you can use the enterprise fund money, or we can take another loan, or we can use do a combination of both. I don't want to recommend taking another long-term loan for a pump station that has a life expectancy of 20 to 25 years. But the advantage to loans, depending on if they're through like MDE or whatever, there's potential for loan forgiveness. But there's also a lot of additional time and work and legal fees associated with doing loans through MDE or what was the one we went through, Neal?
USDA.
Thank you, USDA. So just that's kind of where we are for tonight immediately. And then secondly, I'd like to keep moving, depending on how we go, keep moving with the design. So we'll maybe look at the February work session to decide what we want to do on GMB's proposal for the final. I think Neal had that up, but I emailed that latest proposal on the final design from GMB to the mayor and council to review and for reference. Anybody has any questions for that? I'm sure you do.
Gary,
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you could, for our February work session, in terms of addressing the issue of how we're going to pay for this, could you provide us with exactly what's in the reserve funds or any funds that could be available and used for this? I agree with you. I'm not too interested in taking out another loan. We've already got plenty of those, particularly if we've got funds in our reserve, as long as we don't deplete the reserve to the point that we're in danger if we've got another catastrophic something going on. So if you can provide that for us at the work session, that would be helpful.
I actually have it. I requested it from Donna in preparation for tonight and kind of just got it later today. So I can forward that to you, to everybody. There's basically 4 categories that our enterprise money is split up into. There's developer fees. The checking for developers fees is just under $1 million. The capital reserve 3Rs checking is $252,325. The developer fees that were moved to a CD, which will be available April of 21 this year, is $698,447, and then the capital reserve 3Rs CD is $129,342. So those 4 categories total a little over $2 million, $2,079,867. But I can forward that to you as well.
Okay. It's important that sounds like we're in really good shape and we could easily pay it out of pocket. But the other thing we have to remember is if anything starts going with Main Street and High Street with the state, that'll eat up the rest of that in a hurry. So kind of hard to know how to deal with that, but any of that information will be helpful if we discuss it in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And when Gary alluded or said that, I had alluded to that earlier, that was a meeting that he and I had this afternoon where, I said and I'll contact MDE. A lot of times, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we get a loan from MDE, they have a certain percentage of forgiveness. So I don't know how long we would have to keep the loan if we wanted to pay it off later in 2 years, 5 years or something, just to get the loan forgiveness rather than having to pay the full amount. That was just a, thought that I'll check with MDE. But you're right, we're going to have to be thinking about streetscape sooner or later. So never going to end. Any questions for town manager? Donna, treasurer's report.
I really don't have a whole lot tonight. This, other than the state has been very, very slow in forwarding funds. So a lot of that has to do, I believe, because they're still all working remotely. So I'm sure that things are a little behind. And we do have 11 houses for sale and 1 foreclosure. And most of those 11 are up in Snyder Summit. And that's all I have until we get to the election.
Thank you. Kalina, let's see if I can find your report here, hopefully. There you go.
All right, great. I apologize if you hear Jace, he's right here with me. So sweet, short and sweet, if you still haven't received your water bill, just contact me at the town hall. And as usual, if you need payment plans, arrangements, please call me. That's
All
it.
right. Thank you. Any questions? All right, Lou from Lehigh. Old business, town election. You've seen 3 forms. I had reached out to MML. They sent me probably 10 or 11. Then I also got some from around the county. I made mine just kind of short and sweet, but it did have the qualifications spelled out for mayor and for council. That way nobody can say they had to look for it, couldn't find it. So your thoughts on this, council?
So Neal, I appreciate you putting that form together, and I see that it did have the necessary information called out right there. However, there is still nothing that we have concrete to validate the information that was provided to us on that form. As it stands, we are just taking, I don't want to say just taking, but we are taking the citizens' word that the information is correct. Or do we expect town clerk or town staff to do some kind of due diligence on that information that was provided?
Well, I'll just say this, of all the forms that I looked at, Hampstead, I think, was the only one that really required any kind of proof. So, you know, am I going on their word? Yeah, we could always put, you know, a driver's license or something on there. But, you know, even proof of residency of 2 years sometimes might be a little difficult. My wife, you know, because she moved in 8 years ago, everything's still in, most of the bills are in my name. So I'm not sure how she would be able to prove that she's lived here 2 years. So, but it would be a residence proof of driver's license, perhaps, but sometimes they're not changed right away either.
I just am gonna, Mr. Mayor, just respond to one thing that Councilmember Hoffman said. The statute and your charter require that your Board of Election supervisors, not town staff, are that group is the entity that is tasked with confirming the legitimacy, confirming the accuracy of the nomination certification. So it's them, it's not the staff. That's all. That's just a point of clarification.
And my guess is, in the past, that's just been rubber stamped. I mean, they would have they'd probably even have less way of proving it than we would. I mean, I agree with the mayor. It's kind of hard. We talked about it. How do you prove that? I mean, people can say they lived here and not lived here. And, you know, we don't have a lot of qualifications. You know, there's not a whole lot of pre-qualifiers, you know, other than the residency and voter and stuff like that. Proving you're a voter, you know, you're registered to vote is easy. Proving how long you lived here is next to impossible. You do have to almost take somebody's word for it. So I don't know how you would prove that. And I feel bad for the election supervisors because they're basically rubber stamping it and saying, hey, yeah, this is all true, but they don't really know either. So I don't know what the answer is. I know the mayor has reached out to many municipalities, even outside of our own county, and I don't think he's even come up with an answer on how anybody proves it. I think he told me one of them has this whole list of things they have to provide. But even if you provide all those things, again, I don't know how you prove that they're even true. So I don't have an answer for it. If anybody else does, I just, I feel bad leaving it in the hands of the election supervisors to rubber stamp something that and attest to something that they can't even prove.
If I can interject here just a little bit, one of the ways that we can track residency in the town is through the establishing of their water sewer bill. So if a person moves into the town and we can very easily tell when they established their residency in that home based on their final water bill reading and when they took occupancy of the house. Now,
well, the problem is like the mayor said, like with his wife, she couldn't prove that. She moved in, they got married. It's everything's already been in his name, so that's fine if you're the homeowner or you're somebody that set up a water bill account. But
well, here's where due diligence comes in for the voter. That is it's very important that they constantly update their addresses. They have to make sure that the state of Maryland has their change of addresses, because that all comes through on our voter registration listing. And we've actually had cases where people have shown up to vote and they're not on the registration list. And, then it usually defaults to me because I pretty much am aware of who's around. And even though I may know that they've been here, if they're not on that list, it's not updated. So we have to, paperwork that we do at that time at the election to get that straightened out. But some of the responsibility has to fall on the voter.
Right. Or the
The
candidate.
run.
Well, if you're going to run here, you're going to have some kind of proof.
Well, William Hall didn't have it.
That's who should be running.
Oh, he's going to run next.
Until he got outed.
Yeah.
Well,
by-
let me ask this question here. Understanding that it might be difficult to get what we need put in there. My assumption is that what's been drafted is a significant improvement over what we've had. And we can just hope that it serves the purpose and that we don't have abuses of the system. And it seems it would make it much harder to abuse the system with what the proposal is.
So which form are we looking at?
Literally. Why is it doing this?
What?
So the first form that was sent out at the last meeting was the rather lengthy one. And
I thought that was overkill.
Then I took out the section and just left the copy of the Maryland driver's license and a copy of the voter card. And that's the shorter form, and then the mayor designed one. So we just need to come to a decision because they have to be put on to the website and available at town hall.
Well, I like the one, not because I did it, but because it has our town charter spelled out a little bit better. Now, Michelle, Councilman Smith had said that I hereby certify under penalties and perjury that the information provided above is true. Can that be on there or not?
Yeah, that can be on there. I don't think
Okay.
there's a problem with having that on there.
Well, actually, I took it from another municipality, so.
I mean, if you
Councilwoman,
want to
what is it?
have that, you can have that. If you want to put a little more information about the charter requirements, that's not difficult to put on the form. I think the real question isn't that so much as what kind of identification if any, you are going to require with the certificate submittal.
But Michelle, is there really a penalty of perjury?
Well, you'd have to bring it to the state's attorney's office and ask them to enforce it. There are penalties for perjury, and they are applicable in a lot of places outside the courtroom. Now, how likely is it that we would have?
But don't there have to be does there have to be an oath involved in that?
Just the signature.
Okay.
And
the phrase is penalty of perjury.
yes.
So that's the only other change. That's the only change that I saw.
I'm sorry.
That's the only change that I saw in the mayor's. I like the mayor's application. I like Donna's applications too, but I like the mayor's. But the phrase would be penalty of perjury as opposed to penalty and perjury.
No, the penalty for perjury
right.
is what is
right.
applicable there. So whatever the penalties of perjury would be in this case, and candidly, I don't really know, but I know
right.
that if you had someone who perjured themselves on the form and it turned out later that it was in fact active perjury and not just a mistake. You know, I thought I lived here 27 months and I lived here 26 months. That sort of thing is not perjury. But I actually live in New Windsor or live in Westminster and want to run in New Windsor. That would be perjury. And you could bring an action for that, but you'd have to get somebody from the state's attorney's office to get involved in that.
Does it need to say that? We used to just say, I hereby certify the above information provided is correct.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's problematic if it's there.
Okay.
That's a lawyer answer for you, isn't it?
So the line, I hereby certify under penalties in perjury.
No, penalty of perjury.
Of, okay.
Of perjury. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have it right in front of me.
I don't have them in front of me, so I don't know if there's any, if you have them electronically, Neal, and we can look at them again. But besides it, the only thing I do like listing the charter information, because somebody said to me the last time, well, I don't even remember who, is that on the form? And I don't think it is or was, right? So, I mean, to me, that's personal responsibility. You should know what qualifications are if you're going to run for office someplace, but that's beside the fact. So if it's on the form too, then nobody can say they didn't see it, especially if they signed the form. So, you know. But other than that, I'm not really invested in any particular format.
Okay, so we're going to go with the mayor's form, correct?
Everybody all right with that?
Yes.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Let me
Yeah.
go back and just ask one more question though. Are we suggesting then that if the election board, which is supposed to certify this, if they have questions about the legitimacy of what's been signed or affirmed, would they then investigate, or are they going to just do like Councilman Smith said and just rubber stamp it as it comes to them?
Well, they looked into it 2 years ago.
It is their legal obligation. Now, how much investigation they can do, I don't know. I'm not familiar with exactly how they work it. But if, you know, extreme example, if somebody came in using an address that was a street that no one ever heard of and turns out not to be a street in New Windsor, and, you know, they're giving you the Wrigley Field address, obviously that's an easy thing to check. They do have an obligation to check, but how much they do is really entirely within their discretion. If they think there's a problem, they have the right to contact a candidate and say, you know, I didn't think that house had been built until a year ago. Please explain. And then he says, or she says, well, yeah, we moved into that house, but before that we lived in an apartment on High Street and everything is fine. They have the discretion to follow up, certainly.
Okay.
Especially like if somebody on Rowell Road, some of that's in town, some's not.
Yes.
So if somebody put whatever number Rowell Road, then that would be up to them to verify that it is actually a house in the town limits.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people with New Windsor addresses who are not eligible voters of the town.
Right, but you know, I mean, just because of the zip code, but with Rowell Road, that could be a little confusing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whereas Marston Road, we know that's not in town New Windsor. So,
but it should be easy enough for them to be able to identify where the town boundary is for a railroad. But they should, if they see a railroad application, just pull out a map somewhere or find out from Donna where that limit is.
right.
And then
Because
know.
there's a couple on the other side of Rowell Road. Not all Rowell Road is in town. So, but anyway, is everybody all right with that form?
Yep.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank
Well,
you.
and I just wanted to say one more thing, Mayor. I'm not, this is not picking on Councilman Smith, but I think when you say rubber stamp, it sounds like people aren't doing their job. And the reality is that we've been such a small town, probably most of the time when people ran, people knew who they were and knew that they lived here. So we're getting bigger now. We have a whole new neighborhood. You know, the commission might have to be a little bit more, not us, them, a little bit more diligent about paying attention to that going forward. But you know.
And I certainly wasn't intending.
Oh, I know.
My intention wasn't to say they worked on their job, but I'm just saying that's basically what they're doing, because they don't know any more than we do. I mean, we're basically taking our people's words for it. And I agree with you. You know, and it wasn't that very long ago that you could easily confirm, oh yeah, I remember he's been living there for, you know, but now, you know, with getting bigger, especially with the new houses coming in, you don't know.
Very good.
Thank you.
Grants and project updates, touched on a little bit of that. The $350,000 for foundation stabilization at Dealman Inn. I hope to have a scope of work to submit to state by Friday, and hopefully we can start looking for contractors once weather starts getting a little better. So then also, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll hear whether or not the $500,000 application has been approved. I talked to the state today, and they said if we didn't get that, there'll be another round, very possibly in another month or two, which is very unusual, but I guess because they missed the cycle in 2020. So I'm very optimistic that we'll get the rest of the funding either in this cycle or the next cycle to continue that. Also, I got Circuit Rider Mike Reynolds looking. He investigated. Councilwoman Schultz had sent information on the Maryland Historical Trust, I think it was, grant, and that's up to $100,000, but there's a match part of that. And I was hoping that we could use the purchase price of the Dealman Inn for that match. However, it has to be current match. It can't be from previous. So that's probably out. But in this coming up cycle, there's the Strategic Demolition Fund that we got the $350,000 from. They will fund infrastructure. So that means water, sewer, drainage, also stormwater management in that area that I talked about earlier, HVAC, that sort of thing. So we'll be applying for some money for renovations on the interior. And then the Community Legacy, they also have funding for renovations other than infrastructure. So stay tuned on that. And that's where we are on that right now with Dealman Inn. So things are looking good. I met with, on my report, I didn't report it, but I met with the owner along with Michelle and Steve with the owner of Pub Dog, and he's supposed to be getting me information on what would fit in that front room along High Street and what it would require as far as foundation and electrical and water and sewer and drainage and everything. So once he gets that to us, then we can start getting some estimates from some contractors to put into the application. So we're moving along on that. Any other old business? New business, fiscal year 22 budget, general budget discussion. Gary, take it away.
All right, it's budget time again, folks. So the FY22 budget process is well underway, and today's is the first meeting with the council in terms of discussing and planning for the FY22 budget. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to be a factor with our budget for a second year. We're planning on doing a conservative approach again in calculating revenues for the general fund and the enterprise fund. On the enterprise fund for the FY21 budget that we're in now, we used a calculation of 6 new homes or EDUs when we calculated the revenues. And then this year we're bumping it up a little bit, but we're still only using 8 EDUs, staying conservative there. The number of EDUs, the base and user rates and average water consumption of 10,000 gallons per quarter are used to calculate estimated revenues. This year I created a spreadsheet. I'll take a second to say in Frank's honor, because he was the spreadsheet king, to calculate. I did it so we could easily calculate and the revenues, and all you have to do is basically plug and play, and you change your numbers and change your EDUs, and it calculates everything, right down through. So will be a good tool to use if we change things or moving forward. The water and sewer usage and hookup fees are the big revenue generators in the enterprise fund. So a reminder, something to consider, the revenues from the hookup fees are finite. They will reduce significantly when Snyder Summit is built out. After Snyder Summit, there are not any large properties with potential for development within town limits or outside of town limits requesting annexation that we know of today. So those numbers are finite. It's good income, it's good revenue while they're building those houses and pulling the permits. But unlike your usage revenues, they're going to run out when the building permits stop. So just something to think about and plan for. On the general fund side, your income tax, your real property tax, highway user, and the town county program and road grant are your big revenue generators. Income tax is down right now, and the town county program has been declining slightly over the last few years. Real property is up and actually looking good with the new homes from the reserves and Snyder Summit. But again, we're keeping the FY22 projections conservative. The staff pay rates and retirement and insurance numbers have been calculated. Again, I have spreadsheets for all that stuff, so it's kind of plug and play. The 2 items of note relative to staff, I plan on making Kalina full-time from our current hours of 27.5 hours per week to 40 hours per week. And also a code enforcement officer or CEO has been added as a part-time 16-hour maximum per week position. It's anticipated that 16 hours per week will not be required indefinitely, possibly 6 to 12-month period. But after the residents know that the town has a CEO and they're going to be cracking down on violations, I feel the violations should decrease and the hours could be cut back. Again, that's a part-time position. It's not eligible for health care or benefits or overtime. And I plan on, if it gets approved, to keep the schedule flexible just up to a 16-hour max per week. I mean, it wants to be, you want it to be attractive for somebody, and you could work 2 8-hour days, you could work an 8 and 2 4s, however you want to break it up to get your time in. I think keeping it flexible is a good plan. I did a request email request to Maryland Environmental Service, MES. They of course run and operate our water and wastewater plants. I emailed them on January 21st and requested their FY22 budget. I met with Public Works Director on January 29th for our first budget meeting, and Director Myers provided a comprehensive list of projects for Public Works, water and sewer, and there's never a shortage of projects that need to be done. I met with the town treasurer yesterday, for our first of several meetings. Treasurer Alban provided the year-to-date numbers that I'll start to put in the budget, and we started with the general fund revenues, and we discussed staff pay rate increases and changes for Kalina and the new CEO position. And then back on the December 2nd council meeting, I asked the mayor and council to start thinking about any specific items that you want to review, increase, decrease, add, new line items or whatever, and let me know. So now's the time that we can start discussing those specifics tonight and moving forward. Pretty much every meeting that we have with council and work session, there'll be some form of review, a stage of review for the budget. So we're ready to adopt them when we need to. So that's, and I also gave you all a copy of the budget review schedule a while back on there, so you can keep track of that. So that's all I have with where we are now. And if anyone has any questions, anything they want to start talking, having us look at, whatever, now's the time to start discussing it.
One, we've already discussed earlier today. We're going with one budget proposal, not multiple like we did last year. And also I'll check, I've been checking, I haven't gotten a response here lately, but Congressman Raskin's office to see whether or not the stimulus package will help municipalities. Originally it was going to be $400 and some thousand this year, and which actually would have been in 2020, and then 2021 we were going to get 200 and some thousand. So that still hasn't been decided, but that could be huge for us going forward for the next couple of years. So once I get some numbers on that, I'll just pass them on to everybody. But until we see a check, nothing's going to be in concrete. So hopefully we'll get some stimulus help with that.
Okay.
Any other new business? Residents' concerns? Any announcements? Just keep Sharon and the Schaefer family in your thoughts and prayers. There's going to be some tough times, I'm sure, for Sharon. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And do I hear a motion to go to closed session for general provisions, Article 3-305B1 personnel matter?
Neal, do we need to close this meeting first, or do we close out of from the closed session?
No, you just go into closed session and then you can adjourn the entire meeting from there.
Can I make that motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Smith, second by Councilman Paulsgrove to go to closed session for general provisions, Article 3-305B1 personnel matter. All those in favor, signify by raise your hand. All 4 council members have raised their hands, so move. We'll go to closed session. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Council, please stay on. I'm ending the recording.